Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today we're going to be talking about the most efficient gear path for beginners all the way to endgame. Now this is one of these videos that I need to update pretty regularly every time there's new gear updates, or they make changes or add, quests that give you updated gear. So it's one of those things that I should probably keep up to date, and here we are. So for all of you beginners, we're going to go from the very beginning all the way to end. And we're also going to look at the market, at least here on the NA server, and talk about what you should do and what path you should go down. So I'm going to assume you guys are at this point. Pen Tuvala, this is your season character. You're done with season. You're about to graduate. Everything is Pen, right? Okay. So after everything is Pen, one thing you could do going forward is, your first graduation allows you to turn all your Tuvala gear into boss gear, essentially. And so your gear should look something similar to this. These are kind of the same thing, or you use Tuvala if it's better. So every time you graduate from seasons, or you make a new season character, they give you one of those reward coupons or whatever. You should be getting your Pen Kaposha accessories. Let me show you where to go get them real quick as well, just in case you're a new player and don't know where to go. So in any town, you talk to Fugar, and he's the person you talk to for seasonal stuff and everything. So there's a button right here for season special gift. If you've been playing for a while, you probably have everything. If you're a new player, you're probably looking at all this and what should I get? The number one thing you should get is probably the Pen Kaposha necklace, because it's 30 AP. That's more than the other ones. It'll put you in higher brackets for AP and allow you to grind better spots. Your second character you make a season one is probably going to be either the belt, because 17 AP, or followed by the rings, and then the earrings are last, because the earrings have the least amount of AP, but it also gives DP. After you get all the pieces, then you just go for the Perilla Star, which is a defensive one, and then everything else is just 100 stacks, 150, basically irrelevant. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, easy part is, let's say your gear looks something like that, but with Pen. So now you're probably stuck with Tet weapons and then Tet armors. So there's a few ways to get your upgrades without having to do too much work. One being the Magnus quest line. That allows you to do the quest line, and it allows you to get a free Pen armor. It's a kind of a long quest. I know console doesn't have it yet, so it just gives you a box automatically, basically one free Pen armor. And we'll look at the prices of all of those. But basically, the one you should get first, I would probably recommend either a red nose armor, or I guess maybe the helmet, simply because those are the ones you're going to be upgrading into Fallen God next. And then if you were playing for a little bit before, I believe at level 61, it offers a few rewards where you get your free Pen Blackstar, you get another Pen armor box and everything. So I think, at least on my console experience, I had 2 Pen armors, and I picked red nose armor and then I guess a Griffin helmet for a Pen. So the next thing you're going to want to do is look at the prices for everything else, which we'll be talking about. Oh yeah, also for Blackstar weapons, you get one for level 61. You get a Tet Blackstar, just for getting level 61 as well. So a Pen and a Tet. And you get your Tuvala gear. You get your weapon to deck, which is 6 to 10, essentially. So 5 more enhancement steps after Pen. And then you could exchange it for another Pen Blackstar, which is significantly cheaper than enhancing it yourself. So I'd recommend doing that. And essentially your gear will look like full Pen Blackstars and 2 out of 4 Pen armors. So what you're going to want to do next is you can exchange all of that And so you should have your pen Blackstar on your main hand and your Awakening. So 2 pens in there. And then the free tet that you get is on your offhand, just because that's something you're going to be using. It's the equivalent of a pen Kudum, but, you know, it's something you can upgrade along the way. So your weapons are done for now. You're going to worry about armors and accessories. So you're probably wondering, should I get my other Blackstars, or should I get Sovereign first? Like, Sovereign weapons are your purple ones. Or should you get your weapon to pen, like your offhand? And I would always recommend to people, get your offhand to pen first. So like if you have 3 Blackstars instead, you would do, you have pen, and a tet. You should get your offhand to pen before going to Sovereign, just because Sovereign is an endgame weapon. And I know people are like, oh, you can just upgrade it. Trust me when I say the amount of silver you sink into upgrading your Sovereign, it's not something a new player just has the silver for. Like, yeah, for endgame players like us, we make like 3 billion silver an hour, but a new player is probably not doing that. So yeah, sure, you could probably get this to like tet if you're lucky, but the amount of silver you're going to spend, you could be using on other upgrades that are worthwhile instead, like crystals or any other things. So we'll talk about that. So yeah, other things you could do. There's a Old Moon support quest line. You could do this twice. Basically, you guarantee it. All you have to do is get the materials, and then I have a video of that. It's I just talk about how to get it either way. Old Moon Alchemist or Alchemy Catalyst. You can buy it from the vendors. Sometimes you get it from login rewards and events. Blackstones, you just buy them off the vendor, or you grind for it. Same with magical shards. And Yona fragments are something you melt down yellow accessories. So like if you do rift bosses and everything, so like these yellow accessories and all that stuff, you can melt them down for Yona fragments, and then you just get them. So the one I would recommend to, I guess, newer players is probably the Crescent Ring first, simply because the Crescent Ring has more AP than all of them, and I don't think the Narc Earring is particularly bad. I just think that if you get this one to put you up into, it'll probably put you up into a new bracket of AP, so, you know, that's more, allows you to grind higher end spots a little bit faster. And either way, there's exchanges. So let's say you chose the Tungrad Earring, but you feel like you wanted, you know, another one. You can exchange it, no big deal. And when you're done with that, you can always melt these down for Essence of Dawn, which is stuff you use to upgrade your Kharazad accessories, which are purple. These are also like mid to end game items, which you shouldn't necessarily have to worry about just yet. You will need them, but doing the Old Moon allows you to get the materials. And recently, I should talk about this. Essence of Dawn is actually, you know, like you can put orders on it and you'll get it the same day. Back when there's like 10,000 plus orders on them, you may or may not even get 10 a day. But nowadays you can probably get a lot just by putting an order on it. So that's actually really good. Yeah, now it's easier to get now. But either way, let's talk about a few other things and look at it. So if you're a console player, you get to Vell's Heart by reaching level 56. I know that because when I reached level 56, I just got it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of surprising. You just get this. If you're on PC, on the other hand, you have to put an order on it or get lucky from Vell. It is what it is. So yeah, that's one thing. Console may be missing a lot of content, but you get a free Vell's Heart, so that's always nice. So let's say your upgrades right now, assuming you followed the path that I talked about, is probably like, you know, less than 10 billion silver per upgrade. What should you do? You're probably looking at the most AP for the least amount of silver. That's always been the fact that I've talked about. And people are like, oh, should I get this first? And the answer really is just look at the market. Which one gives you the most stats for the least amount of silver? So, yeah, assuming you have like 2 pen armors and then 2 tet armors just because you got the ones for free. Your weapons will be fine for now. You have 2 pen Blackstars, maybe a tet or a pen Blackstar, and you have your Kaposha accessories. Okay, so let's look at this and let's calculate it off the market price. So you're probably looking at this in a PvE perspective, and you want to grind higher end spots because obviously it gives you more silver an hour and it helps you progress faster, right? That's your goal. One, if you want to do PvP, there's a lot of gear cap stuff if you're on the lower end side. If you're not, because you have a tet or pen Blackstar, the one exchange you could do from Jatina over here, it could give you a tet or pen, or I think it's tet Nuver or Kudum. I think you could swap it between them. So if you want to do PvP, most classes will use a Nuver for PvP. It's good to have both of them just in case. Even if you don't use it, you might as well just have it just in case, right? Okay, so we're going to look at accessories now, assuming you have all Kaposha, right? And I guess your next goal would be to get all your armors, like boss gear, to pen first before thinking about Fallen God or anything else, right? All right, so let's talk about how to get Kharazad. So let me see, is it F2? If you want to know how to make Kharazad accessories on the adventurers board, you can look at the crafting notes, or you could do this. I believe it's manufacturing, and you could find Kharazad somewhere around here. I personally didn't make mine from the start because I had gear and I just exchanged mine for, gear already. But for the rest of us, if you're looking to craft Kharazad, here's how you do it. You go to the adventure board and then crafting notes at the top. Kharazad, and then so assuming you have at least one piece of accessory, the necklace will always be the one you want to upgrade first because it gives higher AP than the other ones, followed by rings, and then the earrings will be last. So either way, you just look at this and it tells you the Essence of Dawns you need, a Deboreka belt. You can buy that off the market now. It's a lot easier. And then magical shards, kind of like the way we talked about getting the Jatina accessories, or the Old Moon ones now that they call it. So basically, it requires 50 Essence of Dawn. This is going to be the most expensive part, but you can actually just get them now. Or you can melt down the, the Old Moon ones that you got before, and then turn it into Kharazad. So, here is the part where all your gear, you're going to have to actually start grinding for it, not just all the free handouts they give you. So, basically, we're looking at this. You don't have any of these, and pretend all this gear is like the free stuff you already have. So this is what you're done with. This is what you want to go for first. And then it doesn't matter if whatever tier it is, just upgrade it through time. That's progression in this game. And then if you're on console, you have this. If not, you don't. Here's what I'd recommend doing if you don't have this one and you're playing on PC, you don't have a Vell. Let me see, where is it? Which character? This one. By doing the Ulakita questline, you'll get the Ator's Power Stone. It's just straight up doing a story questline. It doesn't even take that long, probably a couple hours, if I remember correctly. And then basically this is an entry level stone. You want to get this one because it gives 1 AP. 1 AP, and the effects are really nice. So after that, if you are in a guild that does Khan, which is the boss all the way... wait, hold on. Do I have a marker here? I guess not. Okay, so down here in Achilles' Eye, there's a guild boss called Khan. It spawns here, and then people put like the cannons around the edge and just shoot it, right? It's very easy. The hardest part is finding a guild that does it. And essentially, it's the Khan's Heart. Let me just show you. You can actually buy one as well. So, yeah, you can get the Khan's Heart, and this one is essentially 2 AP. Basically, you use these until you get your Vell's Heart. And for all the other people who are like, oh, I don't want to spend a couple billion on it just yet. If you have all these Spirit Stones and all you do is grind because you want whatever, I mean, these are fine for now. Just use all these up temporarily and it's fine. So more AP, combat XP, sure, it's temporary. But I would at least recommend getting the Ator's Power Stone if you don't want to spend any money. It's like you want to just go from free to Vell's Heart, you get the Power Stone. Otherwise, just do Con 3 times and that's also free. Okay, so now that we have this done, and let's say all your gear is pen, disregard the Fallen God. Let's just say you have regular boss gear. So you want to fill out the ring, like the entire ring slot first before doing any upgrades. So let's say you have either your Kaposha or your Kharazad at like, you know, Tet or something. Try Tet. Either way, you're still upgrading. That's fine. What you want to do is either rings or belt first. The earrings will always be last because they have the least amount of AP. That's fine. Now you're probably thinking, okay, now that my gear is more or less done, what should I do with like my silver that I get? What I would recommend for people to look at is the Kabua's artifact. If you're on console, you don't have this because Ulukita doesn't exist there yet. However, if you are on PC, these are very good. These are like, you know, you probably put an order at minimum price and still get one. The reason why I'd recommend these early on is because it gives +7 AP against monsters. And now, I guess this is not really new news, but it came out a while ago. Now that you can see your total stats and everything with this button over here, here's how you do it. So you do your total stats and then whatever species you want. So I guess it doesn't really matter which one, depending on where you grind. But anyway, so you want to add these. The Kabuas give +7 and also monster DR, so it allows you to grind higher end spots without feeling like you're locked in all the time. And then, you know, extra resources. And they're 5 bill each. If they were maxed out, I would probably be a little bit different about it because you want to get it eventually, but with 10 bill each, you can make some other upgrades. So at 5 bill, these are permanent upgrades, currently best in slot until they come out with other stuff. And for PvE, this is something you should go for. So get 2 of them when you can. And what kind of Lightstones do you put in it? I guess it depends. If you were like a newer player and you're thinking about what should I get that's not on a budget or not like at the high end of everything. So a few things I would recommend that aren't super expensive is species damage. And the one you should get for most things is all out attack. However, I wouldn't recommend it to people who are lower on the DR scale or DP, whatever, simply because this is kind of like a glass cannon thing. You do more damage, it's the best one. However, you do drop a little bit of actual defenses, so it's kind of scary. So people who want stuff without like a penalty in damage, species damage is always a good one. Otherwise, like Vicious Shadows and, you know, other things that I'd recommend. If you don't want to worry about Lightstones as like a, you know, you're just getting more gear, things I would recommend, just get straight up more monster AP and you just get more AP. You don't worry about that and you're done for now. But then once you get to the stage in the game where you're like, okay, I should probably start min-maxing and figuring out like, how can I improve my DPS even further? That's when you start like looking up combinations of everything. I'll leave a link in the description. I have a more detailed video of that. But yeah, aside from that, you know, just get the species damage you want. Vicious Shadows is a good alternative budget one. Or if you don't want to think about it, straight up more AP. You just can't really go wrong with that one. If you're PvPing, that's a different story. But, you know, until then, that's fine. Okay, so next. You're probably like, every gear upgrade is expensive now or RNG. What should I do? Your next thing is to start investing in crystals. Now, this looks like it's very endgame, but what you should do is probably go for Macalods first. These are very strong to get a 4-piece set effect. And if you don't have the crystals, what you would do is invest into nodes in Morning Light, which allow you to get them. And which, yeah, let me see. If you invest in the nodes, you could probably just start getting these over time. And the Crystals of Harmony, you can make them yourself if they aren't sitting on the market. Otherwise, just buy them. And let's look at the... Is it called Harmony? Or no, it's under... Oh wait, a different one. Combine Coombs and Macalods. Yeah, so if they're sold out, chances are you're going to have to make it yourself. Just start putting the nodes on for Morning Light ones that allow you to get it, and keep an order on it. So until then, I mean, Ultimate obviously is the best in slot, but if you want to get the other non-best in slot one, you can always go for the Han ones temporarily, because these sit on the market, and then your ultimate goal is to upgrade into the ultimate version. So I would go with the Han and then upgrade to ultimate. Next thing we're going to talk about, corrupted magic crystals. I believe all of these things you can actually just buy. Don't worry about the void crystals just yet. There are non-best in slot ones that are just 2 AP less, which are significantly easier to get. So let's see. Brutal Decimation, once again, Morning Light nodes you can get there. Stalwart Fortitudes just sit on the market. Corrupted Magic Crystals, for everyone that grinds Star's End, probably have a bunch of those. You probably have at least one Rebellia Spirit Crystal from Seasons. Here's how you get it. Let me see, where are the season tokens? So you combine one Black Spirit Crystal, one Voltara, and one Awaken, and then you get a Rebellious. You can do this 2 times now. I believe they added one more to it, so everyone should have 2 of them by the end of it, right? So, yeah, then you have 2 of them. The Gearins tier is surprisingly the cheapest thing you can get here, and I would recommend everyone get it. Just buy it off the market. The way you would get it for endgame players is doing the higher end Black Shrine bosses, but they just sit at minimum price now. So there's no excuse to not get one anymore. Back when they were sold out permanently, that's when it was more important, but now everyone can buy it. In terms of replacements for Crystal of the Void Akhrad and Void of Destruction, let me show you alternatives, which are magic crystals here. So these are the ones that are endgame. You upgrade the lower tier ones to the higher one, but it's an endgame thing. So Brutal Decimation, you can buy these as well. Alternatives are also Dark Red Fang crystals. They just give more AP. And Akhrads, these are the same thing as the Void ones, but they give 2 more AP for the Void one. So if you can put an order on it and get it, that's awesome. But it's not really, it's more of like a min-max thing with just +2. And then, you know, just put an order on that one. And then Precise Destruction is the other Void Crystal. And look, there's 22,000 of them. So the difference is just +2 AP, which is important, but not at like a mid to lower end scale of everything. So yeah, just put 2 orders on these, minimum price, very easy. I talked about some alternatives and everything, so you should be able to get all of these. And yeah, that's about it. So I have a video talking about my full crystal setup for every single thing. I'll leave a link in the description to a video on that one. It's like 30 minutes long, but I go into detail of why I use it. And if you are PvPing, lifeskilling, PvEing, and different sets for everything. So if you care about watching that one, in the description. If not, no big deal. But this is, I would say this is the go-to for most people, and that's the important part. So whatever's the cheapest, get that, and then, you know, just start upgrading your crystal list as you go on. The bottom crystals over here are when you get Kharazad. So basically, for every 1 piece of Kharazad you have, you get 1 extra slot. I did the exchange back when it came out. I mean, you could still do it now, but when you exchange like a Deboreka at Tet or Pen, you get a Jin one for free. So I personally didn't have to do it, but here's how you would get it in general. So you go to Magic Crystals. Is it under here or is it the other one? It's probably under Offense, right? So these are the ones you want. Dawn Crystal. Yeah, you buy these, combine it up into this one, so you essentially, you know, combine this into that one and then that one to that one. If you're just starting out and you only get the like wand ones, no big deal, just upgrade at your own time. It's not a problem. All right, so now that your crystals are done, also the one in the middle right here is when you have your costume armor, like you use the dark whatever claw thingy, you can put a crystal into center. Is it offensive? No, it's just movement speed or crit, whichever one, you know, works for you. I personally like movement speed a little bit more than crit because you can max out crit in other ways by food buffs and everything, but movement speed is a little bit harder to get, so that's why I have it. Is there a right or wrong answer? No. Just get whatever you think is better for you. Okay, so we talked about artifacts and lightstones. That's done. Crystals are now done. Your gear looks something like this. Well, not like this, but like your full ring is done. Now you're probably thinking of looking into Fallen God armor and then Kharazad accessories. Now, believe it or not, these days people are progressing pretty quickly, and for me, like, I did this on console to see what it's like for a new player experience, and in under 24 hours of game time, I was around 270-ish AP, mid 270s in under 24 hours. Granted, I have knowledge of this game, but I would say for like your average player learning this for the first time, you're probably around 250 to 260 AP within your first month of the game, just casually playing through seasonals and everything. So yeah, you're gonna be in different grind spots, trying out different things. DP is actually important. So the number we look at here is like, obviously higher is better, but the breakpoint that everyone talks about is 401. 401, if you look at these bonus stats, hover over the question mark, and you see the number in the bracket, right? That's what we call upgrading into a new bracket. So every 4 AP puts the bracket number higher, and then every, I think it's like 6 or something different for DP, puts the number higher. So 401 gives you the most you can get before diminishing returns. So after 401, you still get more, but it's not as important and very expensive to get. So by 401, you should be able to grind most spots in general, assuming you're full buffed and everything. That's important. So then after 401, you kind of want to just work on AP more. And then at this point, you're probably wondering, what should I do? So in the order I would recommend, and if you like grinding and don't like enhancing, let's talk about this. Let's look at it together. So the first one you should go for is probably the Fallen God armor. The reason why is this one is probably cheaper than the rest because it came out first in the order of the 4. So people who have been playing for a while, they came out in order, so we had to get them one at a time. Now someone coming into the game, they have a lot of choices because they're all released at this point. So the armor piece came out first, and that means it's probably the cheapest, has been the most sold. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like enhancing, what I would do is probably, I would buy one at like Try or Duo or Try, and then self-enhance it to Tet. Now, I know I just said if you don't like enhancing, you do that. But the honest truth is, like, I think for most people, you can get Tet cheaper than, you know, the cost of making one. And I assume you're using on averages, and with the Failstack calculator, you use Origin of Dark Hungers. I calculated this. Basically, to get like a 250 stack these days is, you know, not that expensive. And then you use the 250 stack to just upgrade. And then, so the order you would go for all of this, once again, how do you get it? You get the flame, whether you grind or buy it. So these flame of whatever. The flame of despair is for the armor. The frost is for the Libresca helmet. This rainbow one is for the gloves, and the resonating one is for your shoes. I would recommend waiting till last for the shoes, obviously, because it's the most expensive. And the flame of Hanjik, people are like, oh, there's a lot of gloves, it's cheapest. It requires you to do the entire Land of the Morning Light quest line, or Land of the Morning Light 1 at least. And it took me about, on day 1, I remember binging it, and it took me about like 8 hours. That's also listening to the story as well. So if you're just speed running through it, it's probably a little bit less. But in terms of, you know, cheapest order, I would usually recommend that. And if you don't have Morning Light done, then the next one you should go for is, I guess, just go in order of how it looks here. Like armor, helmet, gloves, and then last one should always be the shoes. So yeah, the way you do it, from your pen boss gear, you get it to Capris 10, and then you get the flame, and then you do the quest, and then you upgrade to your Fallen God. And then upgrading to Fallen God, whether you enhance it or buy it, is up to you. Let me just talk about this. For all the people that do like enhancing, it doesn't matter which piece of Fallen God you do. I'm just going to talk about the enhancement process. So, if you're buying it, this is literally irrelevant for you. But if you like enhancing it because you like your name on it for, you know, saying you have it, base to pry, you start at like an 80 stack and then maybe go up to 100. Pry to duo, I'd probably go from like 100 to like a 130. Duo to try is probably a 130 to 160. And then try to tet is, I personally use between 245 to 280. 245 for 3 of them, and then the last one didn't want to go, so I just, you know, plus one until 280 or something like that, back before we had pity. So I just kept slamming it, and then it went. And then just ignore obliterating. It's basically impossible for about 99.9% of us, because even if you have a, you know, your highest stack, it's still a 0.00 like 3%, so it's not great. Either way, ignore this one for now. There's probably future content. So your goal is to get to Tet for all of them. More DP is always good, but I think for most people, you're at Try, because, you know, Try to Tet is expensive and it takes a while. So you're probably looking at this, and you're probably getting your DP up because you want to, like, you know, survive, you know, higher end grind spots. And then we talked about Kharazad accessories on how to make it. I showed you the crafting thing. PC players, F2 into crafting notes, or you can do whatever. I think it's manufacturer that allows you to see what materials. Either way, it leads to the same endpoint. So once you get all of these, I would say what you could do is probably enhance the necklace first, because, you know, at the highest level, this gives 44. Even if it's not at 44 and you're like at 40, that's a lot higher than the other ones. So, you know, plus like 10, 15 AP is actually pretty significant. And so while you're doing these are like the cheapest upgrades for you. Here's what I'd recommend. When you're upgrading all your Kharazad, do them equally. So for example, let's say your gear is at base, right? You want to go bring them up to like Tet first, right? So like Tet. Don't just try to slam one of them to like deck. Try to build it evenly, because the amount it takes to upgrade goes a lot more. So basically, let's say you're going from Oct to Nav, which is 8 to 9. That's going to cost you a lot of silver and cronstones. Whereas if you're just going like +1 AP slowly with less materials, you want to upgrade these equally. That way the cost doesn't feel as bad instead of slamming all at once and it feels bad later. So yeah, like the end goal is going to be upgrading it all, but in terms of efficiency, you want to upgrade your gear equally. So by this point, assuming you're at like, I don't know, all tet to pen, one thing you could do is with your seasonal Tuvala, you can get one of these. You upgrade one of these to deck, and then the same way you exchange your first thing for Blackstar, you can exchange one for a tet Kharazad. So basically you get one for reduced cost. And so, yeah, that's good. And then the rest you just make yourself. So assuming you're doing all that, this is probably the time you want to start pushing for your pen Blackstar. If you didn't get lucky enhancing it, or like you probably got a bunch of free hammers throughout events and everything. You guys have seen my videos on console. I one-tapped a pen Blackstar, but on PC, I have gone pity. You can watch the entire series of that. That was a journey. I don't really want to do that again, but either way, it's time to start pushing your pen Blackstar. Whether you buy it or enhance it yourself, I'd recommend buying it, just because on average, you will save money by buying it. So, your gear should look something like all of this. Ignore the levels, but let's say all tet, pen, accessories, maybe duo to try Fallen God armors at this point. And at some point, you're like, should I go Sovereign? And the answer is, when your next upgrade costs like 20 bill or something, when like anything else to make significantly more gains is over 20, you probably want to start thinking about getting another pen Blackstar. Or this is one thing you guys should be doing like throughout seasons and everything, is doing your bosses daily, so, or weekly, I mean. So you see this quest line right here? Weekly, obtain loot from these 4 bosses in Morning Light. Yeah, you should be doing these every week. What they give is, where is it? They give these Embers of Primordial. Essentially, 100 of these equals a pen Blackstar. Not necessarily, but like if you're going for Sovereign, you need 1 pen Blackstar plus another pen Blackstar, or 1 pen Blackstar plus 100 Embers of Primordial, and then it's the equivalent of a pen. So once you get 100 of these, you get 1 free Sovereign, and that's when you should get it. And quick note for all of you Shai players out there, this works similarly. You have to do another quest. If you have a pen Artina Soul, you have to do another quest line. The cost is basically 10,000 Capra stones plus a bunch of Forest Furies. It's about 30 billion-ish silver. It's a lot easier. If you're a Shai player, getting these upgrades is a lot easier for you, just, you know, luckily. And then it takes it to like a tier 2 flame one, right? And then you get the 100 primordial embers that we just talked about, and that turns into purple or fire or primordial. So yeah, I did this too. I don't even play Shai. I just wanted the purple weapon for a Shai just in case one day. And yeah, that's how you do it. So I do actually know what I'm talking about. So if you're not a Shai, which one should you get? Really just depends. Do you play Awakening or Succession? Just get that one first, and then that's about it. All right, so after that, it really just is upgrading whatever is cheaper. So whether your next upgrade is Sovereign, or your next upgrade will be most likely Kharazad is going to be your cheapest upgrades. Do that one. If you're a PvPer, you probably want to upgrade your Nuver, start getting Capris into that one, and you can do that one. But now we're looking at, you're probably over 700 gear score at this point, and after this, you kind of already have an idea of your progression path. But if you don't, just go-to general tips is cheapest upgrade, least amount of silver, do that. Keep doing it until you get it. So if you're a life skiller, Monos, you don't need, I would probably skip Monos these days. Start going straight pre-own, and then Tet close until you're ready for Pen. Life skilling path is a lot easier than the main one, and then after that is really just upgrading. So target stat points that I would recommend for people. So after seasons, you're probably around 250-ish AP. Your next breakpoints for AP going from beginner to mid to end game: 261, 269. I think it's 280 something, and then 301 AP, and then that's like the breakpoints where you just try out different spots because it gives you enough in the bracket to be able to do those. And then for DP, 401 plus, more is better, obviously, and then do that. So after that, what you should do is start actually considering higher tier crystals and start pushing like actual Lightstone upgrades, and then crystal upgrades. Start working on, you know, ultimates, anything you don't have already over here. And then if you're more into PvP, we talk about all of these. Once again, video, so we save another like 30 minutes here. And then yeah, after that, like, it's pretty straightforward from here. It's like, once you're at the end game, you work on one piece at a time. You don't just roulette things like you do on seasons. You work on one piece until you get it, and then keep going. But yeah, that's about it. I figured it would be easier to talk about this in game instead of on Garmoth, just because like it's something to actually look for, and we could actually look at market prices for everything. So to give you a quick update, I did this a while ago, but it's still a little bit relevant. We have a video for gear budgeting, and I'll leave a link in the description. So if you want to, let's say you have 100 billion, this is what you should do. This is the TLDR version. If you want to watch the full version, we have the video, and I explain all of this. And so for all of you who are in Blackstar territory, if you want to enhance it versus buy it, this is what everything looks like. So we did the math on this, and this is why I know what I'm talking about, because we talked about how much it would cost for everything, what Failstacks, and just a lot of extra notes. So yeah, these are still relevant. That's the TLDR version, but if you want to watch the full versions of everything, bunch of links in the description that are more detailed. And I hope this is very helpful for you. So with that said, that's about it. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, point you guys in the right direction. Just drop in the comments. Or if you want more specialized gear help, join my Discord. We have a gear channel. Just post a screenshot and I'll point you in the right direction. It doesn't matter what class you play. Most gear progression is the same thing. If you're curious about like, oh, I play Succession or I play Awakening, this or that, I might help you a little bit more in detail. But when in doubt, this video is probably a go-to general for most people. The difference between is which weapon you start with, essentially. And do you go evasion or DR? So to save you guys a little bit of time, whether you go evasion or DR, does your class have the passive right here? Does it give evasion? If so, at very end game, you go evasion. If not, you are DR. That's about it. Anyway, with that said, this has been a long video, but I hope it helps you guys. And once again, always happy to help you guys out and point you guys in the right direction as well. So make sure to look at this when you're grinding. Make sure to change it to your all stats to know where you're grinding, and then add the monster type. And if you want to know anything else, like which grind spots is good for everything, pick a grind spot, and then you just click this button right here. So this is your normal AP, this is your monster one. So green number good, red number means bad. All right, well, anyway, that's it, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.